Hello. Yesterday I said that today or the next day I would try and do a part 3 in this series on hopes and fears. So here it is, part 3. I first of all want to reiterate that when I spoke about hope and fear yesterday, and I didn't mean to suggest at all that we give up hope and become hopeless. I think I maybe said that yesterday, but I just wanted to reiterate that. All that we're trying to give up really is our grasping on to things which give us hope, because those things aren't really of any great substance. So we can still do that and still maintain a very positive attitude towards ourselves, towards life, the world, whatever. So I said that today I would speak about a teaching called the Eight Worldly Winds, which I used to think was a teaching from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. But then a while ago I discovered that actually it is referred to in the Pali Canon, which are the oldest sources of Buddhist teachings going right back to the time of the Buddha. So, what are the eight worldly winds? Well, they're pairs of opposites, and they're all based on our hopes and fears. And I've called them the eight worldly winds. I think that's what they're most commonly called, but sometimes they're referred to as the worldly dharmas, or the worldly preoccupations, or even as mundane obsessions, which is quite a strong one, suggesting that we're obsessed by these things. These things are perhaps our main concern. So, the four pairs are pleasure and pain, gain and loss, fame and obscurity, praise and blame. So 4 of those are expressions of our hope, and 4 of them are expressions of our fear. So we hope for pleasure, we hope for gain, we hope for fame, and we hope for praise. And we fear pain, and we fear loss, and we fear obscurity, and we fear blame. So you may think that some of those don't apply to you, that you're not particularly concerned with being famous, for example. But we each have particular ones, I think, which we are particularly interested in, or preoccupied with, or even obsessed with. So, of course, I'm sure everyone would say that their preference is for pleasure rather than pain. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. But it's our attitude that's interesting, isn't it? How we relate to pleasure when it comes along. Maybe we try and grasp onto it, or as soon as we're experiencing it, we don't want it to go away because it's so enjoyable. But of course, we know it will go away. So then, almost as soon as we start experiencing the pleasure, there's a part of us which is afraid of losing it and then experiencing pain. So we have a fear of loss, and we have a fear of pain as well. So these are all to do with our hopes and fears, as I said, but they're also to do with our grasping and our aversion, or our dislike. I suppose we could say that they're to do with preferences, really. Somebody said that the great way is not difficult for those with no preferences. So that's an interesting one to reflect on. How much are we swayed by our preferences? How much weight do we give to our preferences? How prepared are we to let go of our preferences if there's a situation that perhaps demands either that we let go of a preference or that we come into conflict with someone else because of our preference. I like one thing, but my friend or my partner likes something else. So what do we do? It's for each one of us to decide, isn't it? But do think about that, about preferences and how much significance or how much weight we give to our preferences. So of course, yes, I would prefer pleasure over pain. And I suppose I would prefer gain over loss, although I'm not particularly materialistic, I think. I'm fortunate that I've got enough to comfortably exist. But I'm quite happy with that. I think I can exist on a fairly low level of material requirements. Certainly, if necessary, I could. But I think ones that get me a bit more, I'm prepared to admit, are praise and blame and fame and obscurity. And I think, with regards to the last one there, obscurity, I think when I was young, I used to have a strong feeling of being overlooked, that I was very insignificant. I never shone at anything. I was never particularly good at anything. Maybe I was good at some things, but I just seemed to be overlooked, didn't seem to shine much in any particular way. Partly because I didn't want to shine, I kind of hid away. But at the same time, there's something in me that did want to shine. So I think I spent quite a lot of time sort of wanting to be somebody, not wanting to be overlooked. And then I came to a point where I realised that was part of my makeup, I suppose you could say. And so I began a process, which is still going on, of trying to let go of those ideas. I don't know that I particularly wanted to be famous, but I just wanted to be noticed, or not. I didn't want to be obscure or be a nobody. So I think that's probably our fear. We may not want to really necessarily want to be famous, but we may not want to live and die unknown to the vast majority of people. And another one for me that's quite strong is praise and blame. I think it's connected with the fame and obscurity one. Connected with not wanting to be overlooked. So I like it if people praise me for things. I like it if people give me that kind of attention. It occasionally happens. But I try not to give too much weight to it. But it is just a nice experience. In Buddhism, we have a practice called rejoicing in merits, where we talk about each other in ways which highlight the positive qualities of that person. And it's a very enjoyable experience. But I guess what I need to do, and others who experience this one, is we just need to experience those rejoicings just for what they are, without any particular significance attaching to it, so that we don't become inflated by it. And the other side of that, the flip side of wanting praise, is fearing blame. So I don't like to do things that people don't approve of, that people maybe criticise me for. But I have to be open to criticisms. I have to be open to people not liking everything that I do. Of course, why should they? I don't like everything that everybody else does. So I can only expect to be treated in the same way, really. Some people like what we do and others don't like what we do. So, and all of these things, like our hopes and fears, they don't really have any great substance to them, do they? It's just that we make something of them because either because we attach on to the enjoyable aspects and we are averse to, or we push away the disagreeable aspects. So again, it's our preferences, isn't it? Pulling towards the preferences, things that we like, and pushing away the things that we don't like. What would it be like if we learnt to do less of that and to kind of sit in this ground somewhere in the middle where there's some equanimity, there's some balance, we're not so strongly pulled by these things. So we'll only find out what it's like by experience. So why not try it out next time you come up against one of your preferences or hopes and fears? Just see what it's like to sit with that and look into it. That's all for tonight.